Hi, good evening, guys. It's All Leeds TV. I'm Martin, and we're here for the player ratings from Leeds versus Brentford. I'm not joined by anyone tonight. A few of the guys had other commitments, and the one who would normally be joining me, Phil, is feeling a bit under the weather, so he can't take part. So I'm sorry, guys. It's just me tonight, but I hope I've got a lot of stuff to talk to you about, and hopefully you can get some questions going in the chats and can break down that performance and see what happens. So, as we all know, we drew 2-2 with Brentford, with us going ahead early in the first half, and then Brentford having a 15-minute spell in the second half where they tore us apart. Then they were ahead 2-1, which left Patrick Bamford to save the day in the 95th minute to end the game at 2-2. So it was a bit of an exciting performance, good for the neutral. And I did enjoy the game for most of it. I didn't enjoy the part where they scored, of course, or the part where Calvin Phillips went off injured and Liam Cooper went off injured. I may have to take some of the blame for that. I did say that we were getting close to a fully fit squad in the pre-match, and now we potentially have two players out. So I think I'm owed a punch for that. I think that's what I'd said. So I'm fine to take that whenever anyone wants to deliver it from the All Leeds TV crew. But yeah, there was some good performances last night, I felt, despite the way it ended. And I don't want to say like some of our guys have been very down on the result, and which is understandable. They were live at the game, the emotions is high, and immediately following the match, you're always going to be a lot more brutal with it than what you would do after you've had a chance to calm down and really progress the result and maybe watch over the match again. So I can understand why feelings were high and tensions were high and they had some negative things to say. I totally get that. And yeah, hello to everyone. Ciao to Richard in Milan. Yeah, let's go through some of the players who we'll go from the back first of all. Illan Meslier. What did you all you guys think to Mellier's performance? Did you feel that he had a good game? There's some things that I liked with what Meslier did, and I don't think he could have done much better for the goals themselves. But some of his distribution wasn't as good as we expect. But if we go through some of his stats from the game of what he did have a right lot to do. He had good short to medium distribution. He completed 12 of his 13 short to medium passes, but long passing was what let him down, only completing 4 of the 13 he attempted. He faced 3 shots on target and saved one of them, but the 2 goals did go in, which one of them he couldn't have done much about, and that's the second one. That was very well hit from Canos. The first one, potentially he could have dived for it, but it was hit quite well, and the shot came out of nowhere, really. So I can understand why that one went into. So I gave Meslier a 6. I'm not sure what you guys saw of that. Meslier an 8 from Gail. That's very positive from you, Gail. I'm glad to see that, and hi to you, Gail. And yeah, I didn't think Philly did anything too wrong, but because of his longer passing, that let it down a bit for me. So he just gets a 6 from me. Does anyone else have any ratings on Meslier? I know his performance wasn't one of the main ones which wants to discuss. Got a 7 there from Richard. That's good. So I'm pretty positive about Meslier, so that's good. I've got a few who have been quite positive, and I only gave a 6. I feel a bit harsh, but I just don't feel that there was anything overall which he did was great. Brentford weren't pressing us massively high in most of the game. They did press around the middle half of the pitch. Yeah. I agree with you, Mark. We should probably have won the game. It's just the way that 15 minutes went, just when Calvin Phillips got injured, because the first goal which they scored, Phillips was actually indicating that he was injured, just as they were passing the long ball down the line to Mbeumo. But the referee didn't notice this or chose to let the play carry on, which is fair. It wasn't a head injury, so he doesn't have to stop play. But that meant that the player who Calvin Phillips was marking was actually the player who scored. Chandon Baptiste was his man marker, and he did lose him at that point because he was injured. So we can't really blame him for that goal, because you could see him, he was trying to get back to where his marker was, but he just couldn't get there because he was injured. So yeah, we'll go over more about the individual performances as we go along. As we look at the back line, go through quickly what I thought the formation was from us. So I think there was some general confusion over what the system was. I did go over it in my tactical breakdown if anyone caught it, but Brentford did line up exactly as I expected, albeit with different personnel. Ivan Toney he had a confirmed case of COVID, so he dropped out of the squad. Sergi Canos replaced him up front, and Roslev came in at right wing back for Canos. That's where he would normally be. Thomas Frank said that he wanted someone who was a bit more of a direct dribbler in Canos, and I feel like he did do the job that Frank wanted him to do. He scored the goal which put them ahead, and I think Canos had a reasonably good game. Not that we like Canos very much after his antics when he scored. Yeah, that wasn't needed at all. And although I don't condone the throwing of the plastic cup, he made a big meal of it, and I think he should have expected that to happen when you go and celebrate in front of Leeds fans. We're not known for being nice, so Canos, I think maybe you brought that on yourself a little. So the back line, we had 3 players in defence. We started off with Luke Ayling on the right side of the 3 centre-backs. In the middle was Llorente, and on the left we started out with Cooper. Obviously, Cooper went off injured, and he was replaced by Jack Harrison, which meant Firpo went from the left wing-back spot back to left centre-back. On the right side, we had Stewie Dallas, and in midfield, we had Calvin Phillips to start with until he went off injured, along with Adam Forshaw, and ahead was Tyler Roberts in attacking midfield, but he was playing quite advanced in occasions. That's how he got his goal. Then further up, we had Raphinha and Dan James in the striker position. So yeah, going from the back 3 right to left, we'll look at Ayling. I actually felt that Ayling had a pretty strong game. Gail doesn't agree. She gave him a 6. I'll tell you my reasons why I gave Ayling he got a 7 from me. He did give the ball away a couple of times, which could have been more dangerous, but ended up being defended well, luckily for him. He did have some very good numbers, stats-wise, which, as you all know about me, I do put a bit of emphasis into stats because we can't always see everything that goes on in the game and how a player does contribute to the team. He had 6 progressive carries and the most progressive passes on the pitch. In addition, he completed the most passes for us with 57 passes completed out of 78 attempted. He had 3 tackles, 3 interceptions, well, 14 ball recoveries. For his first game back from injury, he had a good game, in my opinion. He's still not 100%, you can tell that. But I think he did do a good job. He has just come back from injury, only playing 45 minutes in the under-23s before this. His rating would have dropped slightly, but he made up for it with the flick on for Bamford's late goal. So he got a 7 from me. If it wasn't for that assist, he was heading into that 6.5 mark, which Oscar would love, but I haven't given a 0.5 for Ayling. He's got 7. So other people sort of Ayling. We've got another 6 from Mark. We'll be moving on to Llorente next, so those ratings are good. We've got 1, 2, 3 6s for Ayling. So yeah, that's pretty. You think you all seem to agree on 6? Is there any more which we can say for Ayling? Anyone else has any rating skip for him, or any reasons why they thought he did well? Or and this may look like some sort of weird water, but this is actually rum and apple juice. I fancied to have a bit of alcohol while I was talking to you guys tonight. So cheers in my lovely unicorn cup, which is probably one of my kids, but I felt like cheering up, and why not a unicorn? So on to Llorente, away from my unicorn. Llorente, he did some good things, I felt. He had a better game than he has done in recent games, which he has been a bit poor in the past few games, especially with some of his more speculative passes not coming off and leaving us open. Gail's giving him a 7, and Gail loves rum as well. You're a lady of fine choice, Gail. The I think he did some good things well. So he had 54 of 60 passes completed. So clearly his on the ball work was good. He kept his passing simple and didn't have too many progressive passes, only 2. I think this could be down to where he played in the middle of the free, which is generally the one which tends to keep things simple. So Bielsa would have told him to leave the more speculative ones for Ayling and the other side, Firpo or Cooper when he first started. He didn't attempt. Sorry, where am I out there? His long passing was actually very good, Llorente's, with 17 out of 19 completed. Defensively, he didn't really make a massive contribution. He had no tackles attempted or interceptions completed, but he did complete 14 ball recoveries, which is quite a lot of ball recoveries. To say that he didn't tackle that much, so you're wondering why has he got all these ball recoveries? Well, basically, but to get a ball recovery, you don't have to actually tackle the player. It's just basically the action of picking up a loose ball. So it could be for long passes which had been mishit by Brentford, or it could be someone else tackled the player and Llorente mopped up the possession. So yeah, he did get hold of the ball quite a lot, which was good. I felt he could have done a little better on the second goal, but Carlos did make a good run. I think it still dropped his rating slightly for me. I gave him a 6.5. It would have been a 7, like Richard said there, if not 4. Well, I felt he could have done a little bit better on that goal. I might be being harsh there. Firpo had some contribution to that second goal of theirs as well. But I thought that he did do enough to drop his rating slightly. Then we move on to Liam Cooper, who started the game at left centre back, but he came off the pitch injured after 14 minutes. He didn't do a massive amount on the pitch, but he didn't have a lot to do in that time because we were pretty much just passing around the ball. And Brentford didn't really do a whole lot in that first opening 15 minutes. He had 7 of his 8 passes complete and 2 out of his 3 long passes. Wasn't on a pitch long enough to make a real impact, so he's just going to get a standard 5 for me. That's not because he didn't do anything wrong, but it's just he wasn't on the pitch to make much of an impact, which I assume is what Brian said there was for. He didn't really have a lot to do, so you can't really give him a high or a massively low rating, in my opinion. Then we've got Firpo, who moved over to his spot, so that's where we'll move to now. Firpo obviously played quite a bit of the game, and he started the game, but he did get taken off quite late. He started the game at left wing back and was shifted to left centre back when Cooper was injured, and then went back to left wing back later in the game, but then was taken off. I thought Firpo had quite a good game. I've actually given him a 7. I'm not sure if any of you have any thoughts on how well Firpo did in the game. Anyone have any ratings from you on Firpo? We've had a few for Llorente and a few for Coops. Any advances for Firpo? 6.5 from Mark. That's fair. That's not much lower. I was debating between 6.5 and 7 myself. I thought he had a good game myself. He, like I said before, he did lose his mantle when the second goal was set up. Unfortunately, that would have dropped him down a little bit more, but when I had a proper look into his stats, he had a lot of good defensive actions. He had the most tackles and the most interceptions in our side, with 4 tackles and 3 interceptions and 9 ball recoveries. He won 4 out of 5 of his aerial duels, and he didn't give away a single foul. That was what I thought was most impressive about Firpo, considering that in both the past 2 games, he's given yellow card quite early after he came into the game, and this time he didn't. He kept his composure, didn't give away any silly fouls, and that was a big thing for me because that's something which a lot of people have had a go at him for. And I felt he did a lot of good possession stuff. He was playing in the back line, so he didn't get forward as much as he's normally used to, but he did do some good work, I felt. But I haven't gone over his stats because there's a massive amount to go through. So that's Firpo. What else have we had from Firpo? Another 6.5 from Richard on behalf of Phil. So yeah, 5 from 10th name and 5 from Brian. So if some people weren't happy with his contribution, but I felt he did enough. It would have been a little bit higher if it wasn't for him losing his man for their goal. On to the next player, which is Stuart Dallas, our own Cookstown Cafu, or should we call him the Cookstown Cruyff after his Cruyff term? Did all of you catch his lovely term, which he did, leaving 2 players in the dust? I felt that was lovely. He was good. I felt he did a lot of good things in the game, kept us ticking over at times. He started at right wing back and then moved to left centre back later on in the game when Phillips came off injured, and that's when Firpo switched over to left wing back, and there was some shifting around. But he put in a great shift, as we have seen in past few days. He bumped up his rating higher with the Cruyff turn that I mentioned previously, which is always going to bump mine up. I gave him a 7 for his. I felt he had a good game. Got a 6 from Brian and an 8 from Gail. Anyone else? Temp names 7 for Dallas. Yeah, there's pretty similar to mine, 7 6s, 1 8 from Gail. So it all rounds down to around about what I said, 7. But some of the stats which he got through, he had 2 tackles and 3 interceptions. He was only dribbled past once, which is good. His passing was a big high point. He could have laid on some chances himself, if not for players not timing their runs and being offside. A couple of his long balls which he hit to James, especially, I'm thinking. 7.5 from that there as well. Some of his long balls to James were great, and James mistimed his run and wasn't able to do anything because he was offside, which was a shame. He completed 7 final third passes to Dallas and 4 progressive passes. His long passes let him down a little bit. He only completed 41%, but his short to medium passes was superb, with only over 90% for both short and medium length passes. So that's Dallas covered for me, at least the stats. Temp name, he did have a good improvement, like he has done in the past few days, for 2 games even. He's kind of gone back to last season's Dallas for me. He hasn't misplaced a lot of loose balls like he was earlier in the season, and he's generally been doing what he needs to do wherever he is put, which is what we're used to with Stuart Dallas. So long may it continue. So we'll move on to the deepest man in the midfield, which was Phillips, for the first 50-odd minutes of the game. I think it was the 54th minute when he came off injured just after they scored. He got taken off, but like I said before, he was down when... Well, he wasn't down, but he was injured, signalling to come off. He didn't have any contribution in defensive stats, which is actually a bit rare for Calvin, but most of the game in which he played, we were in charge. Calvin was on for the first half, but when he came off, we saw a noticeable difference in the way they were attacking. That could have been the momentum from scoring the first goal, which you can never underestimate in football. Momentum is a big thing, and it changes the game state a lot. Phillips came off in the 54th minute. I gave him a 6. He played some very good long balls in the first half, with 9 out of 12 completed, with 4 final third passes. Did a good job of dictating play and was indicating he was injured just as Brentford were in a move to score their first goal. I may have been a little bit harsh there with that rating, but that's only because I didn't see as much defensive contribution as I was expecting when I came to the stats, because it could have been him being smart in his possession. I might be being a little bit harsh there. And you love how KP was out of shot all the time. One of his many talents is managing to get in place to block those shots. But yeah. I've noticed that from Mark there. Do you think Dallas is good enough if we need to progress? Maybe not as a starting first team player for the future, but I feel as a backup player he offers a lot, and he's a favourite of Bielsa's, and I think probably while Bielsa is with us, we will probably see Dallas in the team because of how highly he rates his versatility. He plays whatever position you want him to. He's played left back, he's played right back, he's played defensive midfield, he's played midfield, he's played on the wing, he's played briefly at centre back. So, and there may have even been an occasion when he's played up front, possibly against Man City last year when he scored, because he was the highest person forward to score. So he's probably played in every single outfield position for us. I hope I answered your question there, and you said that it's a good answer, so I hope you enjoyed it, Mark. Who were we on to? We just finished Phillips, and we'll move on to Adam Forshaw. I'm not sure what end was thought of Forshaw. I want to get some of his ratings in before I go on with mine. Yeah, I like Adam Forshaw, so I think you can probably guess where I would be going with this rating. But yeah, I will go through some of his stats for you while I wait for some more ratings. He completed 40 of his 48 passes, including 13 out of 14 long passes, which was 92% completion, which is impressive. Again, he covered the most ground on the pitch, which is, I still don't understand how he has got to this level so soon after being injured for as long as he was. It's robotic in nature. I swear there's something going on at the Forparch Medical Ground. Rob Price has got his hands deep in some limb harvesting, I feel. But so we've got an 8 from Mark, 7.5 from Richard, a 7 from Gail, a 7 from Brian. So my rating fits in around about that. I've gone for a 7 from Forshaw. He did do a lot of good stuff on the ball. He was essential keeping the ball moving. He also had 2 key passes. Key passes are a pass which leads to a shot, and 7 final third passes and 7 progressive passes. He didn't have as good of a defensive display as I felt he has had. There weren't as many tackles as we used to. I think it was just 1 tackle. I haven't wrote it down, but there wasn't a lot defensive-wise by the stats which he had done. And especially I noticed that when Brentford brought on Wissa in the later stages of the second half, he did have a lot of trouble managing Wissa's physicality. Wissa is a big lad and he can run with pace, so he did have trouble keeping hold of him. But he didn't have any glaring errors. He wasn't at cause for any of the goals, and so that's why I didn't lower his rating. He stayed with the 7 from me. So yeah, I can't stop talking good things about Adam Forshaw. I think how good he would have been for us at times earlier in this season, and even at points last season, to have a midfielder who can do the stuff that he does, because there's no one else quite like his profile for us, and I'm very happy with him being back and fit. So then we move on to Tyler Roberts. Usually we would be looking at Tyler Roberts in a negative sense, but he scored his first Premier League goal this season, which is great news. He had a great game for me, did Tyler. He had a very good centre forward performance. Get some of your ratings in for Tyler. We'll get on to Raphinha soon. He was as a striker, so I'm putting his ratings a bit later on for Raf. I'll go through some things about Tyler. His opening goal was a great poacher style goal. He timed his run perfectly to get on the end of Raphinha's cross, just getting enough on the ball to get it into the net. And not only that, I'm not sure if many of you noticed this before, but just before the goal, it was actually Tyler who won the ball off. Well, he didn't win the ball. He intercepted a pass of theirs and started off the move himself. So that's great defensive contribution from Tyler. He was doing well linking up play. He completed 27 of his 35 passes. I completed 1 take on and 5 progressive carries, including 2 into the penalty area, which was definitely the most on our side. I don't know if it was the most on the pitch, but definitely the most on our side. He pressed well. He caused problems wherever he went. He was always available for a pass in advanced areas, receiving 8 progressive passes. In addition, he had the most expected goals for us with 0.5, and was also fouled the most, drawing 3 fouls. So this is unheard of for us in this channel. We've got a 8 from Mark, we've got a 7 from Brian, we've got a 8 from Richard, and a 7.5 from Gail. Some great ratings there, guys, and very close to what I've gone. He got an 8 from me. I feel Bamford would have been proud of that performance from Roberts. I know we all say that the main striker won't be happy when the backup striker is doing well, but I think he will be. That's the sort of guy Bamford is. And Bamford's place in the team isn't in question, I feel. Tyler did have a great game, which is only going to be good for the team in the long haul. If he can continue that level of performance, he may well even take over Rodrigo's spot in the side, because he played in the attacking midfield spot. And yeah, like I said there about his celebration temp name, it was a very muted celebration, which surprised me since it's first goal this season. But I can tell that he was frustrated maybe with some of his criticisms. Some of the criticism were warranted at times. Some of them were over the top, but it was always a constant thing which he's had to deal with for a long time. So I'm very pleased with him. And if he, like Max said, if Roberts can keep this up, he'll only get better. He's still only young, 22 years old, and the sky's the limit for how well he can do. Well, not the sky's the limit. I don't think he has that big of a ceiling, but he can definitely improve and be a competent backup player for us if he does keep it up. But yeah, that's Tyler covered, and I don't think I mentioned it there, but he was actually my man of the match. It was a very close run thing between him and one other player. You can probably guess who the other player is, but it was a very close run thing for me. So I've given Tyler my man of the match. The official Leeds Twitter didn't even bother to put his name on the list, which astounds me. It really does, because them of all people should know the stick that he has received, not least whenever he's in the starting lineup and put on. That's the stick that he gets, and you could see it all before the match. And like I tweeted on our account, that everyone's going to need a very big spoon to eat the words after that game. But yeah, I'll move on from Tyler. I don't want to rave about him too much. So yeah, on to the next one, which I've picked. It's been Dan James. I'm not sure what you all thought of Dan James's performance. He had a semi alright game. He did try a lot. You can't question Dan James' effort, which I'm sure is something that Bielsa always appreciates. He never stopped running. He was on the pitch the full game, and he was active the whole time. But there were still some question marks about some of the things that he did, not especially his timing of his runs, like I mentioned previously. He was caught offside the most on the pitch. He was caught offside 3 times, which is not quite good enough. Brentford's defence aren't the fastest in the world, so it was just a case of him not timing his runs correctly, because he can easily outpace any of their centre-backs. No problem at all for me. He did try, I felt, but yeah, I think 5-6 from Brian and Gale there. That's not far off my rating. I gave him a 6. He did press well. He did try a lot of runs off the defenders, but they just didn't come out. His defensive contribution was pretty all right. He had 5 ball recoveries with 1 tackle, 1 and 2 interceptions. He completed 1 take on, had 7 progressive carries. In addition to Tyler, he did receive 8 progressive passes. That shows that he, even despite him not always receiving the pass, making bad runs, he did still receive the ball a lot of times in advanced areas, and he did actually make the most shot creating actions in the side. However, the shot creating actions is a bit different to being creative, because they aren't always the pass which leads to the shot. It can be the dribble which leads up to the shot, because the shot creating actions are the 2 previous actions before a shot. Sorry. So yeah, he had the most on that for us there was 6, but he had no. The expected assist for him was 0.1, which is a very, very low amount. So, which seems to me that he maybe laid on 1 pass, which ended in a shot, and it will be in a low rated shot, so he won't have got a lot on that. Yeah, well, that part is never in question. He does have a lot of passion, and his work rate is always high, and that is clearly why he's been one of the first names on the team sheet since he's got acclimatized to Bielsa's tactics. He's slotted in very well, like I knew he would, at least on the pressing side of it. He just didn't have a great game with his final end product today, but I'm sure he'll have better games. And yeah, that Richard, that's not something you often see, is 2 Welsh forwards in a Premier League side. I don't think there's very many Welsh forwards in the entire Premier League. Maybe a few more in the Championship, but it's certainly at the top level. There's not very many of them, so that's always a good thing. Good thing for the Welsh among you. Yeah, it's just a 6 from me for James, and then on to the man who was the close call between him and Tyler for the man of the match, which was Raphinha. Raphinha also got an 8 from me. You can see why he was close to Roberts' rating because he had a great game as well. He made life very difficult for the opposition defender, especially their left wing back. He made his life a nightmare, winning 3 take-ons and drawing a few fouls. He had 4 shot-creating actions and the most expected assists on the pitch with 0.6. In addition, he completed 2 crosses into the box and 4 key passes. He was our main source of creation. He did find it difficult, however, in the final part of the game. The areas got congested, but he did still play his part in the equalising goal with a good delivery for Ayling to flick the ball onto Bamford. So yeah, he got an 8 from me. What do you all think of him? We've got a 7 from Brian, a 7 from Gail. Yeah, that's good. Similar to what I put, I'm a little bit higher. There was a lot of people saying that he ran out of ideas, and yeah, he did find it difficult in the last stages of the game, but I felt that was as much to do with he got shifted. I'm not sure if any of you noticed this, but he was actually shifted to right wing back later in the game when Bamford came on. I'm not sure what the thinking was here, but it was definitely shifted deeper. That was one of the things which I felt Bielsa made a misstep. I don't think he should have moved Raphinha away from the end of the pitch where he can do the most damage. It didn't really help, and I think at that moment in time, with Brentford not really doing anything, they weren't having much of the ball. We didn't need the pressing presence of Dan James, and I think the better option there would have been to take off Dan James for Bamford, which would just be a straight swap. You wouldn't have to move players around like he ended up having to do. He ended up moving. Obviously, Firpo was at left wing back, who he took off for Bamford. So left wing back spot was taken up by obviously Harrison. Oh, sorry, left centre back spot. Sorry, Firpo was at left centre back, and he was taken off for Bamford, and that meant that Dallas went to left centre back, and Raphinha went to right wing back, and he was deeper. I think the objective was to maybe put crosses into the box, but Brentford have got a lot of tall players. It's always going to be difficult for them to. Easy for them to deal with those crosses. Yeah, I would agree with that, Mark. I don't think the changes lost us the game, especially the one that the worst one was for me was the one later in the game. Obviously Calvin Phillips being injured didn't help, but he brought on Matthias Klich for Phillips. That was the only real option that he could have done in that situation, I think. The final one was the worst one for me, and I don't think the decisions cost us the game. It was more the spell of that 15 minutes around when Phillips got injured, which lost us the game because they attacked us quite well. We weren't very organised with the new play with Klich coming on, and that moves us nicely onto the subs. Since we were just talking about Klich, we will continue to talk about Klich. I felt Klich was probably our worst player in the game. I know he was only on the pitch for 30 odd minutes, but because of how drastically things went tits up with Calvin coming off, I mean, it's harsh to blame Klich for that because Matthias Klich is not Calvin Phillips. He isn't able to do the same things that he is. He didn't do well with his passing. He only completed 15 out of 21 passes. He was in the final third for a lot of time, but only completed 1 progressive pass and 1 final third pass. So in half an hour, that's not a right lot to do, to be honest. The effort was there, I felt, from a Klich, but he just didn't really create any shots. He also picked up a yellow card with a late challenge. The difference between him and Calvin was night and day. Like I said before, he's never going to match up to Calvin Phillips. So we've got 4 for Klich from Gail, another 4 from Brian. I wasn't quite as harsh that I've got a 5, but that's still my lowest rating of the squad. So the next player who came on, the first player who came on was Harrison, but I went to Klich because I was just talking about him. So Harrison came on when Cooper was injured. I don't think that was a problem. It was quite. I know it did mean shifting some players around, but I didn't feel that Firpo had a bad game at left centre back. Harrison himself, I felt, had a good game. He may not have seemed like it, and he didn't create a lot, but he was active in getting the ball forward. He was also active defensively. Was a surprising one for me, but he had the most ball recoveries on the pitch with 17 ball recoveries. That's more than any of our defenders, and that was very good work for him. He was dribbled past a couple of times by Roslev. That's what drops down his rating from me, but he's a winger. So I feel you can allow some iffy one-on-one defending, and he was playing in an unfamiliar position, playing at left wing back, so he was deeper in the game than what he would have been or where he would like to have been. His best stats were from possession. He completed one take on. He had 12 progressive carries and 5 final third carries, which both of those stats are more than what Raphinha had in the game. But obviously, Raphinha had an impact where it mattered in setting up the goal. So it's clear why I've given Raphinha a higher rating. I gave Harrison a 6. His short link-up passes were good, completing 28 out of 32 passes, but his mid to long range was worse, completing only 13 of 25. His rating would have been higher, but he didn't really do anything creatively, and he put a lot of crosses into the box without a lot of impact. There's been some very poor ratings for Harrison there. We've got a 4 from Gale, we've got another 4 from Brian, a 3 from Mark. I can understand where you are coming from with that. He didn't have a great game, but I felt he didn't do it as badly as what Klich did, and Klich got my lowest rating. I say 5 for me is quite a bad rating. To get lower than 5, you have to score a bizarre own goal or get sent off for a really reckless challenge, even though we all love reckless challenges. We are dirty Leeds after all. 6 from me for Harrison. Let's move on to the final sub, and that was none other than Patrick Bamford, and he scored the equalising goal in true poacher's fashion, just getting anything he could onto the flick on by Ayling. He kneed it into the goal coming off the crossbar in, and the cough went wild. The whole stadium went wild. I did sat at home. The limbs were great to see, and he did rescue a point for us. So can't ask for more than Bamford than that. That's what you bring on a striker for off the bench, is to make an impact. He didn't do a whole lot with regards to link-up play because he was quite high up the pitch. He only played like 23 minutes, but he did complete all four of his passes that he attempted. He made 2 ball recoveries in the short time he was on the pitch, but he also picked up a yellow card. But I can't go lower than a 7 for someone who rescued a point for us. So Bamford gets a 7 from me. Brian's gone for him as man of the match. I can totally understand that, Brian. He rescued the point for us. We've got a 6 from Gale, 7.5 from Richard, and yeah, he had a good game, and he is what we have been missing in the final third. Tyler did show some things of what Bamford can do, but I don't think he'll ever get to the standard that Bamford is at. He can be a good backup for Bamford, in my opinion, but Bamford is going to lead our line for some time, I believe. There's not many players like him who press as relentlessly as he does, and that's why he's so liked by Bamford, and why in the Championship when we had Eddie and Nketiah, and Bamford wasn't scoring goals, and Eddie Nketiah came on and he did score a couple of impact goals. People crying out for Eddie to come in, but then when we did play Eddie, our game suffered. And yeah, I can't say how much I'm happy that Bamford is back. He's one of my favourite players in this era, and off the pitch, he's recently shown that he's expecting to be a father. I'm not sure if you've seen that. We have an heir to the Bamford estate, as I tweeted earlier. He's a great guy and a great servant to the club. So I'm very happy that he's back. Is there anything? Has anyone got any questions for me that you want answering? Anything you can think of? Floor's open. I've got a bit of time before I will shoot off. Let's go through some of the things we've had recently. There wasn't too much in the post-match press conference from Bielsa. He did say that he was happy with Bamford scored a goal. He was in the right place at the right time to score it in typical striker's sense, which you can't say better than that. We haven't got any of the updates of the injuries yet from Bielsa. He didn't know on the post-match press conference because it's too early to know. But fingers crossed, Calvin is okay, and it's only a knock that he's got. He was walking off the pitch, which is always a good sign, rather than being carried off. And Cooper's, I felt, might have been a little bit of a worse injury. Although he did just about manage to hobble off the pitch, he did look in a lot more pain than what Calvin was. You could tell when he was down on the floor that he was really struggling. Luckily, the centre-back is an area of the pitch where we do have more options. And I think Strauch should be okay. Bielsa said that he is in the last part of his recovery on the knock that he had. I think it's a hip injury, if I remember rightly. So hopefully he'll be back in time for the big game next weekend, which is Chelsea. Like Gail said, the takeover. What's everyone's thoughts on the 49ers who look likely to take over soon? And I think the very latest it said was 2024 was the latest that it would be. So, what's everyone's thoughts on the 49ers? I don't know much about them. 2024, like Logan said, is the time when they're expected to take over. But Phil Hay did also say that it could happen earlier, depending on how things go for us. I would assume that staying in this league would be one of the factors in what they would want to take over early. And one thing that I've been wondering is when the 49ers do take over, I think that could be when Bielsa leaves. I don't like talking about it, but he's going to leave eventually, so we have to think about that possibility. Thank you very much, Mark, for that kind comment. I'm doing the best I can. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I don't know a right lot about the 49ers. We have some US-owned clubs in this league. I believe Burnley were taken over by a US company. Obviously, we have the Glazers at Man United. They're American-owned, I believe. Most of the shareholders are American there. And there are a few American clubs, and some of them better than others. I do feel that we can trust Wadrizani to a degree in who he would choose to take over the reins as owner. I'm okay with owners as long as they don't interfere too much. Leave the on-field decisions to the manager, because we know what it's like to have an owner who gets way too involved with the on-field matters. Massimo Solino. Yes. Best leave that name in the history. We all hope that 49ers will be a good owner for us and help to take our great club forward more. Mark thinks that he'll leave at the end of the season. That just seems to be a lot of people are thinking similar. And I can understand why some people are saying that. He has come under more pressure this season. I don't think he's had pressure from the owners, from Wadrizani himself, but he has had some pressure from media and from the fan base. Not me personally. He has made some errors, but as much as we all say that he's our Lord and Saviour, I have been known to think that's the great man looking over my shoulder. I can't speak any ill about him, but he has made some mistakes, and he will make them from time to time again. Sometimes his substitutions aren't always the best, but with what he's done for us, no, I haven't not got the Omicron. I did actually have COVID around about a month ago, and it was just the regular strain. I'm fine. I've just got a bit of a smoker's cough. I'd stopped smoking for a while, and I went back to it recently. I will stop again. I know it's not good for me, but yeah. Back to the 49ers. 450 million. Logan says there. I think that is the total that it will cost, since the 49ers have already bought stakes in the club, so the money that they've already paid will be part of that 450 million. It's quite a lot of money, not as much compared to the top leagues in the club, but it's still a lot of money. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens in the coming seasons about that. Yeah, that is what Leeds does, mate. It does drive you to your vices. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the 49ers quite soon away. And yeah, Gail said there, we've had the FA Cup draw tonight, and we've got the Hammers away, because we always get FA Cup draws away. If you didn't know, we haven't had a home game in the FA Cup since 2016. That's 5 years of away draws. I mean, I know we don't progress very often in the FA Cup, usually out in the first round, but even then, it is still something to have had 5 years full of away draws. But at least this time it isn't a low league opposition who we'll be embarrassed to lose against. I would much rather it be a team in our league. I'm happy with getting West Ham. It's a good away day for the away followers. We'll bring our numbers as usual and make our voices heard. I don't mind West Ham as a club. They've been doing well this season. It's going to be a tough draw. Yeah, I don't expect us to win it, and I don't think that's made. I wouldn't have minded a cup run, but I do feel with how much pressure there is on the league, we need to focus more on the league. So I'll just be enjoying that game when it happens. And yeah, if we lose, we lose. And also in that week, we play West Ham twice away. We played them, I think it's on the 9th and 16th, I think. So yeah, we'll be in London twice in the space of 7 days. And we know how well London has been for us historically, don't we? Yeah, we might as well stay in London, to be honest. No, I wouldn't ever say that. I don't like London. Yeah, we need to focus on the league, and the next opposition we've got is Chelsea, our old rivals, and under the charge of Thomas Tuchel, however you say his name. Yeah, that's obviously going to be a challenging game for us next weekend. It's a 3:00 kickoff on Saturday, and Chelsea haven't been in the best form recently, I felt. So it is actually a good time to face them, I'd say. I think they hadn't conceded more than once prior to the weekend's fixture. And who was it that they lost to at the weekend? I forget, actually. It was West Ham, wasn't it? Yeah, I think. Let's see. Where's that? Yes, it was. They got beat 3-2 by West Ham. So they don't always keep clean sheets or only concede one. It is possible to score more against them. Obviously, West Ham are doing a lot better this year than what we are, so we can't expect to take that result with too much. But as always, I randomly for this game, I don't know why, but I have a positive feeling about it. I just have a feeling that we can get something from this, especially with Bamford being back. He likes to score against his previous clubs, and he scored last year against Chelsea away under the magnanimous Frank Lampard. Oh, I hate that man. Anyway, yeah, so the Chelsea game, I will be doing my usual tactical breakdown prior to the game. You'd probably see that on Friday evening or maybe on Saturday morning. We'll see when it goes out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. We will be facing a formation that we haven't faced before, which will be interesting. And I'm looking forward to it because it's going to be an interesting tactical battle. I'm not sure if Bielsa has faced Thomas Tuchel before. If he has, I don't know. He could possibly have faced him in previous one. I don't think he has. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of respect between the two of them. There usually is some coaches who are known in the game, and Tuchel is known in the game. I think I've said his name about 3 different ways. I've butchered it. But yeah, looking forward to it. I'm not sure if you all have any thoughts on the Chelsea game, what you think will happen. But I'm going to be going shortly, so unless there is anything else, as Gail said, I will say night. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Martin CBM Riley, I believe. Could be all these TV in the midst there, but if you search Martin CBM, you'll find me. If you a lover of Football Manager. You'll see a lot of tweets from that on my own personal account, so I do post things that I enjoy. So there is Football Manager content on there. I tweet the odd things about tactics. So if you want to follow me on there, please feel free. Yeah, that's all from me for tonight, and take it easy everyone, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, Richard. Bye.